Alright everybody, just a quick video here to show the Anim URO component. So just to show it off again, you can actually just add this to any actor that has a skeletal mesh. It'll try to find the first skeletal mesh within the hierarchy, and then it'll just ignore the rest. We can add things like find by tag, and then do an array if we need to have additional skeletal meshes, so you can decide when to update rate or set the update rate on whenever you want. So by default, this one is actually setting so that the visible distance factor threshold is the default value, but you can actually just completely turn this off if you wanted to kind of debug this and see what's going on with it. By default, it's the visible distance thresholds, so I'm actually going to paste some values in there right now. So these are the ones from the previous video if you saw it. So these are, I have some tooltips here now that I've pulled directly from engine code. So it just shows the max distance factor and just gives some kind of like some tooltips as to what this actually means. So you can see here like 0 frame rate skip at a max factor of whatever. So if it's like 100% of your screen space, then don't skip any frames. So it's like how many frames I want to skip at a whatever screen space that I have relative. So you don't have to have the visible distance threshold, but you can actually force the LOD, and so that you can see here that this deactivates that. And now you can actually change the LOD factors. So this is actually inverted. So it's which LOD that you want, and then how many frames you want to skip at which LOD, right? So LOD 0, you probably want 0. LOD 1, I don't know, you can have a skip of 1 or a skip of 4 if you want to get aggressive, you know, those kinds of things, right? So it really depends on how you want to set these all up for your LODs. But then further to that, you can actually have interpolation skip frames. So what it does is, like, between the frames of when these things are moving around, you can actually tell it to stop interpolating. If you are already skipping, let's say, 3 frames, then skip the interpolation completely. Right, so it won't interpolate from A to B location, or A to B rotation, or whatever. And then even further to that, you can actually have when the animation actually isn't being rendered. So when the skeletal mesh itself isn't being rendered, you can actually tell it to skip aggressively if you wanted to, at 10 frames to skip. So this also works on dedicated servers as well. So keep that in mind. There might be, again, some issues with if you are not updating these animations at a particular rate, and you're wanting to fire in a particular direction. What you should probably do is, on that particular call, make sure that you're forcing the update and interpolate to that particular location on that immediate frame, just to bear in mind, right? And then there are some advanced options too, and actually, so we'll jump in and show this off for now, just for quick purposes. But you can see here when I actually get to a particular distance. Oh, sorry. My bad. I had this left on LODs. So just keep that in mind. Go back to the visible one. I didn't actually have LODs on mine. So on the visible thresholds, this should change. Yeah, you can see it here. Actually going at ticking very, very harshly at particular distances. So just to test the interpolation, let's get that set up here. So if I wanted interpolation to be turned off at a particular threshold, let's say at I want to have it at 2. So if it's beyond 2, then you can see it will stop interpolating to that particular one. And I can even make it tighter. But yeah. So let's do 1. And then versus, let's do it at 10, just for visible demonstration. So you can see there, it's interpolating very quickly between multiple different locations. And at that, you can see it stopped interpolating right there. Yeah. All right, cool. All right, and just to demonstrate that this does work on any particular, actor, so I'm just pulling in, just a actor that has just a root skeletal mesh here. This was just created in C++, but it doesn't really matter. It's just basically a skeletal mesh. I can do the same thing here. So like add the Anim update rate optimization. I can do it based on, let's do it based on LODs, right? Oh, and this one will actually show it off with the debug display too. So let's add a few of them in here. So between the different LODs, let's skip, I don't know, just some simple ones, skip to 3 and then skip 5. So that way you can actually see, compile and save that. And I'll jump in. Oh, my bad. I will make sure that this character here is doing an animation and having them jog forward. Sure, that works. And there we go. So it'll be hard to see, but I can make that a little bit more aggressive. So let's make that a little bit more aggressive. So let's change it to like, I don't know, 5, 10, 15, all right? That should be really tough. And jump into game. Oh yeah, there it is. So, and here we can actually debug the, so Anim, what was it called again? Sorry, I forgot. Anim visualize, there it is. There we go. So you can see here I'm at LOD 0, that's at LOD 1, and switches right back and forth between the two. And then that's at 10, right? Here, let's actually hide these, and that way we're not getting these displayed. There we go. So at LOD 1, LOD 2, updating only at 10 frames, and then I can get further. LOD 3. Oh, that's really tough. So now, if I wanted to, right, for the visualization, and you could do this for both the LOD as well as the view distance ratio. So I can turn this on. So you can see here. So this will actually be really, really tight. So this actually does, I can show you here. If this is just default in the engine. So enable on-screen debugging for optimization rate. So you can see if I'm skipping 0 frames, the bounding box will show up red. If I'm skipping 1 frame, it'll be green, and then blue for 2, and then skipping more than 2, it'll be black. So let's just do that now. So we'll do 1, 2, and I think it was what, beyond 2, right? And 3, I guess. I guess we'll do 5 just for visualization. All right, so there you go. You can see it there. So the first one going to green, next one should be blue. Yep, going to blue for 2 frames being skipped, and then beyond 2 is going to black. So you can also see the debug text up at the top left there when I'm actually like looking at them, how many update rate, so how many frames I'm actually deciding to skip, right? Or sorry, how often am I updating it? So 1 to 1 is 0 frames that are skipped, right? And you can see all the individual stuff. So interpolation frames can be skipped as well, and whether or not that should be updated. And you can see the different interpolation and all the additional information. So you can see it like here, for instance, if I wanted to turn off interpolation after 2, I can do that. And so you can see the interpolation should interpolate skipped frames, and then I can walk away. And should skip interpolation update is attempting to. You can see it there. And then when I get closer to, then it actually switches back to 0. So there you go. So that's a proof of concept of how this particular update rate optimization can be played with. Oh, the non-rendered one as well. You can see here when I actually turn that on. Here, I'll turn the debugging back on too. So with that one, so when I'm actually looking at the guy, you can see the mannequin update rate. You know, 2, 1, 2, 1, and then 2. And if I stop looking at it, it goes up to 15, right? So when I stop actually rendering the guy, then his update rate is all the way at 15 frames to skip. So that just gives you a proof of concept, and you can actually enable these Let's turn these back on for these guys. I would not recommending turning on your display debug update on the entire class. Make sure you're probably doing it when you're actually doing it in the scene, right? So for instance, like, I guess I'll stop. Oh, actually, I can keep these guys hidden. Go to my spawn actors. So this is 1,000 of them. And you can see here, if I wanted to activate, you know, the display debug, then I can do that here. And here I'll actually go to simulate game mode instead. So you can see here it also shows the SK mannequin versus the weapon skull. So it shows the skeleton itself as which one that's actually being updated. So just to also make sure that you're keeping everything in mind for like what things you want to actually display, I would recommend, yeah, making sure that you're turning off your debug display on things that you don't want to actually display. Otherwise, you'll start spamming. But you can see there how many frames that are actually being skipped in that evaluation for this particular one that's all based on screen size, right? So when I'm right up close to it and taking up all of my screen space there. But yeah, feel free to change those values however you wish. And you can see at like a longer distance, like those things update less and less and less. And then the closer you get for this, yeah, you can see interpolation just got turned on, how they're all kind of like swaying based on the update. And then when I move away, then the interpolation is actually turned off. But yeah, there you go. So that should help you guys out with whatever skeleton mesh you want to change on your update rate, so you don't have to do this via code anymore or via the blueprints that get exposed in like different plugins. But yeah, have fun with this, and I hope this helps. All right, that is all.